You did not choose who you fell for, not really. You tell yourself a story about it. Their smile, the way they talked, some moment that felt electric. But the truth is, long before you were aware of it, your brain had already made the decision. Attraction is not a feeling, it is a process. And most people never understand what is actually driving it. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear changes how you see every relationship you have ever had. If you have ever wondered why you keep falling for the same type of person or why love feels impossible to explain, this video is built exactly for you. Subscribe and follow along because we are going to go deep. Think about the last time someone walked into a room and something shifted inside you. You did not plan it. You did not decide it. One moment they were a stranger. The next, something changed. Your attention moved toward them like it was being pulled. You probably called it chemistry, or a spark, maybe fate. But here is what was actually happening inside your brain in that moment. Your nervous system was running a rapid, largely unconscious scan. It was checking for familiarity, for safety, for genetic compatibility, for emotional resonance, all within seconds. And here is where most people miss it entirely. Attraction is not what you think it is. It is your past reaching into your present and choosing for you. Psychologists call it the mere exposure effect. The more familiar something feels, the more you are drawn to it. Robert Zajonc, a social psychologist, demonstrated this in the 1960s. When people were repeatedly exposed to stimuli, faces, shapes, sounds, they consistently rated the familiar ones as more positive, even when they did not consciously remember seeing them before. Now apply that to people. The emotional patterns you grew up with, the way love was expressed or withheld, the way conflict unfolded, the emotional temperature of your home. All of that became your nervous system's definition of normal. And normal, to the brain, feels safe. Safe feels attractive. This is why people sometimes find themselves repeatedly drawn to emotionally unavailable partners or to relationships with a specific kind of intensity. Not because they are broken, but because the pattern feels familiar at a neurological level. And there is a deeper reason this happens, one that goes all the way back to childhood attachment. In the 1960s, psychologist John Bowlby proposed that every human being develops an attachment style based on early bonds with caregivers. Later, researchers Mary Ainsworth and Philip Shaver mapped this into 3 primary adult attachment patterns: secure, anxious, and avoidant. Your attachment style is essentially your love blueprint. If you are securely attached, you tend to feel comfortable with intimacy. You can give and receive love without excessive fear of abandonment or suffocation. If you are anxiously attached, closeness feels like a craving. You may find yourself hypervigilant to signs that someone is pulling away, and you experience attraction with an almost obsessive quality. If you are avoidantly attached, intimacy feels threatening at some level. You are often attracted to connection but pull back when it becomes real. Then here is the striking part. Research consistently shows that people do not just randomly pair up. They tend to attract partners whose attachment style mirrors or complements their own unresolved patterns. Anxious and avoidant individuals are notoriously drawn to each other, creating what therapists call the push-pull dynamic. That is where it gets interesting, because knowing this does not make you immune to it. Here is something most people do not want to hear. The feeling you call love, a significant portion of it is your brain's reward system responding to unpredictability. Neuroscientist Jaak Panksepp identified a brain system he called the seeking system, a network driven by dopamine that activates when we anticipate rewards, and the key word is anticipate, not receive. Dopamine spikes not when you get what you want, but when you might. This is why the beginning stages of attraction feel so intense. The uncertainty is fuel. Your brain is flooded with dopamine every time the object of your desire responds, smiles, texts back, or does not. Studies on variable reward schedules, the same mechanism behind slot machines, show that intermittent reinforcement creates stronger behavioral hooks than consistent positive responses. In other words, someone who is sometimes warm and sometimes cold, is neurologically more addictive than someone who is consistently kind. And most people miss this, and it explains so much about why you stay when you know you should leave. Let us go a layer deeper. When you are attracted to someone, your brain is not just flooded with dopamine. It is also releasing norepinephrine, which heightens alertness and causes that racing heart, and phenylethylamine, often called the natural amphetamine of love. At the same time, serotonin levels drop. These studies by psychiatrist Donatella Marazziti found that people in the early stages of romantic love had serotonin levels comparable to individuals with obsessive-compulsive disorder. That obsessive mental loop, thinking about them constantly, replaying conversations, is not just emotional. It is biochemical. And then there is oxytocin. Released during physical touch, prolonged eye contact, and emotional intimacy, oxytocin builds trust and deepens bonding. It is why the longer you spend with someone, the more attached you become, even when logic says you should not. Your brain is not trying to make you happy. It is trying to reproduce, attach, and survive. Love is evolution's most effective strategy. Here is something the culture gets completely wrong about attraction. We are told that attraction is about finding the right person, that somewhere out there is your perfect match, and when you meet them, it will just work. But attraction is not about the other person. Not really. It is about the version of yourself that a particular person activates, the parts of you that feel seen, or challenged, or safe, the memories and unresolved dynamics they unconsciously mirror. This is not pessimistic. It is actually liberating, because it means that if you understand what is driving your attractions, you gain the ability to choose more intentionally. You stop being moved by invisible forces you do not recognize. Our self-awareness is the only real intervention. I want you to sit with a question right now. Think of the person you have been most intensely drawn to. Not necessarily the healthiest relationship, but the most magnetic one. Ask yourself, what did that person make you feel about yourself? Not about them, about you. Did they make you feel chosen, exciting, enough? Or did they trigger a familiar ache, the feeling of having to earn something? Because that feeling is, whatever it was, tells you more about your internal world than it does about them. Attraction is not random. It is not fate. It is not magic. It is your nervous system, your childhood, your biochemistry, and your unconscious beliefs running in the background, choosing people who match the emotional frequency you were trained to recognize as love. But here is the reframe that changes everything. Once you understand the mechanism, you stop being controlled by it. And you can still feel the pull. You can still fall. But now there is awareness behind it. And awareness in psychology is where every meaningful change begins. The most powerful thing you can know about love is this: you cannot truly choose who you love until you understand why you love the way you do.